Hello and welcome to Activated Talks podcast. This is Martin Nafuka live on UNAM radio. And today we are continuing with the discussion on green hydrogen, and with us today is prospective guests to extend on the issue of green hydrogen in the country. As we are all aware, it has been trending as of recent, but still, especially within the youth demographic, not many people are aware about it, not many people are versed with it. So it's very important that we scrutinize on the matter, get our facts right, see a futuristic perspective, a futuristic outlook on the matter. And today we are joined by Mr. Harald Schutt. Mr. Harald Schutt, it's an honor to have you, sir. Alongside me is Giovanni Plessis and Aubray. It's amazing to have you guys, independent political commentators here on my right and on my left. And Mr. Harald Schutt is in the sustainable development economy. Mr. Harald Schutt, it would be amazing if you can just introduce yourself, please, in a more holistic way.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm working with Namibians since 1983, which is probably before some of your parents even have met.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and then I came first time 1990, and since 1997 I'm living in Namibia. I'm married here, and I worked first in the vocational training system because I wanted to add economic independence to political independence. And I must say I was an illusionist because I thought it would go very fast. But we are still
Yeah.
work in progress. Yeah. Now, the aspect of renewable energy in general, and then comes solar, wind, and green hydrogen in particular, is, in my understanding, different steps, different hurdles we have to take in order to make this country economically independent.
Interesting. Thank you. It's nice to have you. Yeah, talking about adding economic independence to political independence. Gentlemen, I want you guys to just air a few questions and maybe some of your perspectives and have a discussion with Mr. Harald on the issue. We're going to start with Giovanni.
All right.
And we are going to link this with the case of green hydrogen, the discovery of green hydrogen in the country and the discovery of oil in the country. What does it look like in terms of benefits for the people, the population, job creation and all that stuff? And you also look at negotiations. Are the negotiations really from a perspective of national interest to make sure that the nation really gets the most out of these negotiations in terms of these resources, given that we have a lot of outside investors coming to invest into this?
Okay, so my first question would just be to you, sir, is will all Namibians benefit from it? Because I had a few discussions with a few Namibians, and most of them feel there have already been resources discovered in Namibia, a lot of resources, gold, uranium, you name it, Namibia has discovered it, but it hasn't impacted their lives in any way or form. They are still living in poverty, so what will make green hydrogen different and the oil different from the other resources that has been discovered?
I think, first of all, this is a very valid question, and I think it is a, let's say, a concerning fact that in 33 years of independence, we have not reached a better and more equal distribution of the country's wealth. And if you allow me to be a little bit African in my answer, that means we go a little bit around, but don't worry.
Okay, sir.
The example of fish quotas. Yes. For example, I fail to understand why fish quota as a national resource are allocated to individuals and how that actually can be. I have never seen that any kind of criteria, what makes you qualify and you not qualify for getting a fish quota.
Yeah.
That's a long story. I happen to be involved a little bit in this issue before and shortly after independence.
Yes,
but like other, if you talk about a mine, then you can say, all right, it is a foreign company that invests, in the operation, processes, the processing, the transport, all of that. And that's why it is kind of their resource, and the state can get taxes and royalties and something like that. So in general, I think it is a very political question, and it is for me also the most interesting question in regard to green hydrogen, but also to oil and gas. Now, we have elections very soon.
Yes, sir.
And I think it should be a subject where various political parties come up with their proposals, their ideas, how to make sure that the country gets maximum out of this resource. Now, in terms of size, it is, I think, the single biggest resource that we have. In terms of monetary value and in terms also of job creation. So altogether, we are in the moment with all the investments that I know of, and I may not know all of them, but the various companies coming, we are talking somewhere in the range of 60 to 70,000 jobs, permanent jobs. Coming up. Now the question is, who is going to get those jobs?
Yes, that's one of the main questions I was wanted to state later.
Just getting on to what he said, I was about to ask, come launch day for hydrogen project, we'll have a lot of people not being employed by this project. My question would be, what steps has been taken to educate the people down south about the new project that is coming? Who are the eligible candidates to qualify for jobs? What forms of education should they take up in order to qualify for the job?
Okay. You know that the German government has provided 40 million euros.
Yes, we've had yes.
Around about times 20 is around about 800 million Namibian dollars. And 5 million of that have been earmarked to finance education and training. Now, these 5 million have gone, to my knowledge, I'm speaking under correction, to 98 individuals who are mainly trained in the white-collar jobs, like engineering, whatever, different. I know that a new company is coming in, and they have already now committed themselves to start a vocational training center with an estimated intake of 300 to 500 people per year.
Down south or here in Windhoek? Which is that now?
I would say that that center should be in Riddlewitz.
Okay.
However, you know, I'm a training person. I'm a teacher by passion, especially in practical things, mechanical engineering and other things. So you will find that this whole animal of green hydrogen requires a special set of training because it is so dangerous.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, something like this volume of pure hydrogen in this room would kill all of us and devastate this room completely. Oh. So you have to be really very conscious when you are dealing with it, you know. If you would have, let's say this would be a closed cylinder full of hydrogen and there would be just a very small hole here, then we would all be in immediate life danger. It's not poisonous, but it is highly, highly explosive. And that's why everything like pipelines and valves and all kind of transport systems and the whole handling of this very dangerous material has to be done by people who really know what they're doing. Because otherwise we can have human casualties and big destruction of material values. Therefore, I believe that also a portion of the training should either be done overseas or we should establish some special institutes here, and I would then for that advise to do that in Windhoek because it's more central, it's more easy.
Sorry, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, let's get back to Namibia. Let's bring it down a bit. Hydrogen, electric production, fine. Currently, we're getting all of our electricity from South Africa, right?
It's about 60%.
60%.
From South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. South Africa actually is not the main supplier anymore.
Okay. Now, my question would be, what will be the new tariffs be? Will it be cheaper if we're producing electricity locally, or would we still depend on South Africa for supply of electricity?
We don't depend on South Africa anymore for supply of electricity. It has been like that, but the times are over.
Sorry, sir, just wanted to state on that question, the statement you just said now. So I just wanted to ask a question, sir. Seeing as South Africa is having a lot of problems with Eskom now, there's daily breaks in electricity supply. With the hydrogen that Namibia will be producing now, if the project is successful, will it be possible for Namibia to become South Africa's main supplier of electricity? And is it possible that there are talks going on right now with Eskom in South Africa for Namibia to become one of its suppliers?
We should, whether there are talks ongoing, I don't know. Unfortunately. But we should have been a supplier to South Africa since the last 10 years. You know, I'm going up and down ministers' office and boardrooms since 24 years actually, trying to tell people that Namibia should become a net electricity exporting country. and not an importing country. But that is independent actually of green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is mainly an export product. Namibia has by far enough resources to supply more than double, or we could generate easily more than double our capacity and our needs from our own natural resources. And let me again, take the privilege of my hair color and be a little bit African in my answer. That means I will answer a question that you haven't asked.
Yes, sir.
The critical factor in supplying ourselves 24/7 and other countries is not whether it comes from green hydrogen or not. Actually, green hydrogen would be, circumventing. Green hydrogen is less efficient than direct renewable energy, because it is made of renewable energy and there's a loss factor in the production process. What I was proposing to the minister was that we, given the fact that we are in the lucky situation to have 24 or more solar systems already on grid now, and the big game changer in the world is storage, electricity storage. Now let me expand a little bit on storage, because green hydrogen is also one form of storage of renewable energy. In fact.
Definitely.
You can store it in batteries. I know of about 6 to 7 batteries which have a commercial value, which makes sense in different situations. Then you can have flywheels, a big heavy wheel that is very well stored, and then you turn it very fast, and when you need electricity, you put something to it and you run a generator. Then you can deep freeze air in a tank underground and make air liquid. That's about 150, 60 degrees minus. It gets liquid. And then when you need electricity, you just open a valve and the air comes out like that, and there you can run a turbine. The one I like most, and I find most reasonable for Namibia, is something they did in Arizona, USA. You take a train, put a heavy concrete box on, and pull it up an 8% slope for example, 10 kilometers, when you have extra electricity. And then you lock the brakes. And when you need electricity, you just open the brakes and the thing rolls back, and the wheels, because of the weight of the concrete, the wheels are connected to a generator and you make electricity.
Interesting, yes, sir.
That is very easy, also easy to install in the Kumas Highlands here, and it doesn't need any water, it's just very easy, very simple. So I went to the minister and I told him, why do we not invite the world and let them demonstrate their different technologies? And we link it, each of them, to one of the solar power stations we already have on grid. Because all those power stations, and I have to develop one of them, and I'm still responsible for the equity, for the portion of the equity of one of them, so I'm learning every time. So all of them have a surplus. In order to be able to supply 5 megawatt for, let's say, 6 or 8 hours a day, you need a surplus. You need something like an installation capacity of around about 6.5, plus minus, 6.5 megawatt, in order to be able to supply 5 megawatt. If you want that in more detail, I can explain. So this extra could easily be put into storage. So we could now say, okay, this technology goes with that power station, this goes with that, this goes with that, and then we let them produce. My condition would be that every technician or engineer that comes from whichever country this technology comes from gets 2 people from UNAM and 2 people from NUST to follow them.
Yes, sir.
Like
And after 5
apprentice,
years,
shadows.
Namibia would be a center of excellence and competency with regard to storage. And Malawi or any other country that would go solar, and all of them are going to go solar. That's a given fact.
Okay.
They would come and phone us and say, guys, how did you do those days about storage?
Let's reverse it back a little bit. We all know that the process of, since the establishment of green hydrogen, or the founding of green hydrogen in the country, as well as oil, the process was very fast-paced. Out of the blue, we have a green hydrogen task force, just like that. So let's discuss this. I want the two of you just to have that discussion, and we're going to allow Mr. Schutt to intervene where he can. What do you guys think about the rushed process? Because I feel like it was rushed in terms of getting people on the hydrogen task force. Are these people professionals? Are they really representing, let me say, the interests of the people, and will people benefit, massively from this?
For me personally, I feel it was very rushed, because once you speak to an average Namibian, they don't even know what is green hydrogen, and most of them don't even know about all the oil yet that has been discovered in Namibia.
Which is close to 11 billion barrels, equivalent almost to, what is this? Angola. We're literally at the same scale.
Same, yeah. So I feel it was very rushed. I feel the nation still needs to be eased on into it, and I'm not sure what is your opinion on it.
Well, honestly speaking, it's a good initiative. Hydrogen is the new way. It's the new wave that is coming in. Most of the countries have. I think China. If I'm not mistaken, China has built currently one of the biggest hydrogen power plants. If I'm not mistaken, maybe you can intervene on that part. But like you said, we need to educate our people more on hydrogen, how it's going to be beneficially not only as for the government but for the people. Like you said, we need to be taught about this. Even for me personally, I don't know a lot. I don't know that it produces electricity, fine. We're going to supply electricity, fine. But what are the pros and the cons? What are the benefits that come with it? Can I become a retailer? Those are the things that I ask myself.
Okay, I would not advise, but I'm not the one who makes it. I would not advise that we would set up a trade system in Namibia with wholesalers and retailers of hydrogen in bottles or something like that.
Sorry, sir, sorry for interrupting you. Just wanted to ask why, sir.
Yeah, I was.
All right, sorry.
You know, I drove in a hydrogen car in Germany. I was invited by this Enertrack, who is part of Hyphen, because I always go where things are and I want to learn. Now, that car had a tank which was having a capacity of 500 bar. 500 bar is a very, very, very high pressure. Now, the other problem with hydrogen is that if you have a steel tank and you put hydrogen in and you close it up completely, after 1 week, your tank is empty. Because the hydrogen molecule is so small that it goes even through steel. So the walls of that tank, and they had one there, they cut it open, is so thick. Part of it is carbon fiber, and then they had other materials to keep the hydrogen in there. Then the energy density per liter, if you this is about 3/4 of a liter. The energy density of it, of hydrogen in gas form, is much less than LPG. I mean, LPG is the gases that we normally use. You know? So, if you would want to become a retailer, it would be more advisable for you, and I think also far more energy efficient and far more cost effective to start dealing in gas bottles that we have already in LPG gas bottles, and that makes a lot of sense. Now, let me again answer you a question that you didn't ask. Why do we have that? I mean, did you ask yourself? Why do we suddenly have that hype? It comes quickly, and why is it so? My answer to that question, because the Europeans, especially the Germans, but also other people in the EU, did a big mistake by 25 or 30 years ago, by not going into what they call Energiewende, the change of the energy system into a sustainable concept, because it seemed to be so much cheaper just to build a pipeline to Russia and get oil and gas from Russia easily. Now, there were a lot of political issues which are not part of this forum, but they resulted in the fact that Russia is not delivering gas to them anymore. And there have been sanctions and what. So now they need an alternative. And that makes the huge difference. And that's why the European countries are prepared to invest something like, 10 billion euros in the Hyphen. So there's another one which is 15 billion euros. Altogether, I think we are closely to 35, 40 billion euros that are going to be invested. And it's going to come, there's no question about it.
That's actually the question I want to ask there, because we have a lot of white elephant projects in Namibia that never get completed. That is, Namibia is very famous for having white elephant programs. So will green hydrogen also be another white elephant project of Namibia, or will we see the flourishing of this project? Because a lot of people do not have a lot of trust in the current administration to finish this project or to round it off properly. It's one question I want to state to everyone on the panel.
Just to add on to what you say as well, who will be held accountable for all this, or let me say, who will be responsible for seeing all of this? Because just like you said, we have had a few projects in the past that have never materialized. a lot of money is being injected into the project, but nothing comes of it. Who's going to be held accountable for it? Who do we ask questions to?
Okay, the general question first and the specific one afterwards.
All right, sir.
All the white elephants or the half-finished projects in the world or in Namibia are in the responsibility of the current government, because that current government has used taxpayers' money, you and my money, and we have given it to them because we want schools and roads and everything, and when they're not finished, remember the toilet story in the north and
Yeah.
many others, then it is, you know, the issue of the custodian. You know, if I give you $1,000 and sell you, please go and buy this and this for me, and you don't buy it and you don't bring it, then you are responsible, and I can say, well, where's my money? So, why I'm so confident that the green hydrogen project will materialize is not because I suddenly have started to believe in the capacity of our government, but because the foreign interest in it is so high. They want the stuff. And Namibia is in the lucky situation that we have solar and wind energy very close together. That is why we can make it cheaper than most other countries in the world, actually all other countries in the world. So one project that I know about is going to install 2,500 wind generators.
Wow.
One project.
Wow.
So, and there, of course, then there is a lot of jobs again, you know, because they have concrete poles, they have steel, they have glass fiber, the ships must be landed, the stuff must be transported from the harbor to the place, and so on and so on and so on. Roads must be built, and so on and so on. So this is mainly the development aspect of it.
Yeah, sorry, not to interrupt you. You spoke something about jobs coming up, tenders coming out. Will you have a story of people getting tenders again, or do we have tender regulators that are going to foresee that all the tenders are given to upcoming contractors that want to get into the industry?
Now, I think James Manupe is doing actually a very good job in negotiating those conditions. If you go to the details, I mean, 80% of those jobs would be given to Namibians, 20% of these again to youth, and so on and so on. He even discussed the salary levels, you know, because he wanted to prevent that just the cheap jobs would be given. The problem I have, and there will not be necessarily at least government procedures, because this is a private company. As a private company, they can do what they want. No, excuse me, if I also have a company.
But
You know,
if it's a private, so the government does not have any regulation onto how they're going to conduct business? How are things going to be? We won't know what they're doing. We won't get accurate figures of how much is going out and coming in. You see, those are the things that worry us as a nation.
Okay. The regulations are under development right now because it came very fast. It was, you know, we also don't have regulations for many other things in this world, and nobody 5 years ago, nobody knew that the hydrogen hype would come up. So they are now there, and I think James is a very central figure in that, and he really knows a lot about it, nationally and internationally, and he has just been appointed now to be the head of that new not association, but that new responsible institution at the Ministry of Mines and Energy, which is going to survey and overview and keep control on those things. Now, the capital, and that is the decisive question always, is private capital. If government doesn't decide to buy into it, as you have that discussion, 24%, you know, it's like that. If I have a company, and I'm running whatever, let's say a transport company, and I decide to employ him as a driver. Okay, then I decide that he is the driver, finish and clear. And I don't have to
Explain it to
ask
anyone.
anybody for that. But if you now come and you say you buy, let's say, 24 or 50% of my company, that means, you know, you give me whatever, $1 million, and now you are part of the decision-making process. And I don't like that guy, I rather want that guy. Then you have a right, because you have invested in me and my company, you have a right to decide that it should not be him, but it should rather be him. You know, that's how it is. And this whole investment, also foreign investment, is nothing else but a commercial transaction. And government can decide, and that is the critical question, which was also discussed in the media, to use your money instead of building a school or a clinic in the north or something, and invest it in a commercial arrangement in order to have a right to decide exactly what happens. So this is nothing else but an ordinary commercial operation.
It is a commercial operation, but yeah, we have
There's another aspect of it, to it. And of course, because it's Namibian soil,
yes.
government can decide and can provide licenses, and that's what they're also doing. So a company would have to apply for a license, and as a government, the Namibian government can put certain conditions to that license. To make it easy, first of all, they could, for example, say, you remember the Ramatek story,
Yes, sir.
that you are not allowed to pollute the environment by putting the residues of your tanning and coloring processes, just like in the nation. You have to follow certain procedures so that the groundwater does not get polluted. So these are conditions which you can put to any investor, and that makes a lot of sense. Mines also have that. You make an environmental impact assessment before, and there should also be, Ministry of Environment and Tourism should go after and make sure that any company follows those regulations.
Which they don't. Because for the mines, if we go to the mines currently, we've had a lot of issues with mines. Honestly speaking, when you're working at a mine, you don't know how much is going out and coming in. So the government needs to take they need to take a strong hold on our mining industry, our fishing industry. They need to show interest in order for the nation to benefit.
I agree.
Yeah.
You were just talking for the investment of 24%. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Because, let me say, anybody, and that is irrespective of what color you have and what background you have, if it is my company, and I have, let's say, developed that company for 10 years, whatever it is, whether I deal in anything or transport or service or whatever, and now you want to come in and tell me what I should do in my company, then I would say, my friend, you may be a nice guy, but
I do get your
I am the main player.
yeah, but that's how it is. And that's also good like that, because otherwise companies wouldn't develop. But if you come now and you say you take responsibility, that means you invest your money and you come with your time and you want to be part of it, then of course you will also have a right to decide. So that's that part. That's the commercial part of it. And then there is the other part of it that has to do with legislation. For example, there are labor laws in Namibia, which are good labor laws. It is not allowed to employ people more than so and so many hours per day, and if you employ them on weekends, you must pay them overtime, and you must make sure that there is first aid and medical, and so on and so on and so on. So there are various laws, and those companies, of course, have to follow those laws. And that is good and fine. But if you now want to know exactly the figures of that company, how much going in and out, and I'm on your side there, I think we should look exactly what is going to happen. Then you must be part of it. Because I wouldn't tell you my business.
Definitely, we'll never know how much comes in and goes out, since you are the main. Since you are the main shareholder. So the government staying in the blind side or not knowing or owning 10% of the resources makes it difficult for you to make a decision, especially if it comes to how much we want as profit. It does not make sense for me how the government can own 10% of 90%. And how much are we going to own from this hydrogen project? Are we going to still own another 10%, or are we going to own 24%? Are we going to own 50%?
Before Harald answers this question, I just want to bring out that the EU is interested in this resource. And we also have now, I think Japan is showing interest as well. So this
there
question
are a lot of players.
So all those countries coming in to invest, I think the question should be then answered from that.
Yeah, they are coming on to invest and they have their own interests. No question. This is a simple, straightforward commercial enterprise for them. We must be clear about that. I will come to that again in a second. I would just like to answer your issue. I think Epangelo, and that's the one you were referring to,
yes,
is actually so far so good, quite a good idea. I'm not sure that they are operating optimally, let's say so. But I'm also not sure that actually I am always operating optimally. So we may discuss that in detail at another forum. However, if you have a 10% stake in a company, it is law that you are present at the board meetings. And the information about the operations, also the financial operations, will be presented at the board meeting. So you will know. For example, one thing that companies do is they take their product and they sell it to themselves. They have another company on the Cayman Islands or something.
A shell company.
Sure.
A shell company, yes.
Yeah, and then they sell it for a very cheap price, because there they pay 3% tax, and here they pay 33% tax. So they take their product and they say, yeah, unfortunately, on the world market, we couldn't sell it into anybody better, because nobody knows that they're also owning the other one. And now we sold it to this company at a very cheap price, and so they pay very little taxes. But you cannot do that if somebody from or from the state is sitting in your boardroom, because if they know what the whole operation is about, they will say, no, come. We don't sell there, we rather sell there, because then we get a better price.
Just quickly, a question I just wanted to state for the whole panel is Namibia is only 10% of the oil, as I'm correct on that. So as Mr. James came in and he said, Namibia is thinking of, on a later stage like Saudi Arabia did, starting to buy more and more back of the shares in the companies or in the projects now. My question is to the whole panel, do you think Namibia will be able to buy back some of the shares, more than 10% of the shares of the projects?
I doubt. I would start by saying that. Reason being is if the government has already struggled with maintaining a few projects, how will they have funds to be able to buy shares? Because the company might decide to lift their price. What happens if they decide, no, this will be our set price for buying shares in our company, and the Namibian nation will be able to afford it? What will happen to us? You see.
And remember now the proceeds that's coming from this project, it's supposed to be double our GDP.
Yes.
It's coming just from the oil. It's supposed to be double in our GDP. So for me personally, I believe there is, if Namibia wants to, there will be funds available to buy more of the shares back in these companies. I know they will set their own share price according to the New York Stock Exchange market or whichever market they are registered on. But I believe Namibia can buy more of its shares back if Namibia negotiates properly.
Let's put that straight. You, as a listed company, you don't determine your share price.
So the market determines your
determines your share price. Look at Recon Africa. It goes up and down, and there are many ways also to try to push your share price up or down or something. And some people make a lot of money by knowing in beforehand what is going to happen, so. But that is the price you pay for being listed somewhere. I mean, the process of listing is you are a private company, you are going very well, and then you go to the stock exchange and say, no, I want to be listed. And that means now, whatever, I'm issuing 1 million shares to a value of $10 each or whatever. And then if there are certain procedures, if you follow those and they accept you, now suddenly those papers are in the market. And then there's a question, who buys them? And if there's a huge interest, then your price will go up. And if there's no interest, your price will go down. And that is beyond your control. It now depends on your operation and on the expected revenue you will get for owning those shares. So that's the first point. You cannot say that the Namibian government or the company themselves are directly determining their price. It's not a product where you can say, I sell it to you only for that price amount. The oil industry is a completely different animal. Because the price is determined by the exchange rate to the US dollar. It is also worldwide issues going on. I mean, you all know climate change and so on. My personal prediction is that the price for oil is going to go down rapidly in the next 10 years. I would not invest in an oil company now. One of the reasons being that the EU has decided that from the year 2035, no combustion engines, no new combustion engines will be registered in Europe anymore.
Is it not also the same thing also happening in the US? I think they're also putting the same thing forth in the US.
They are discussing it. To my knowledge, they have not yet made a decision.
Ask the
because
lawyer,
the motor lobby is in the US even stronger than it is in Europe. Europe has decided to start shifting their combustion engines to electrical vehicles. I have one myself. And I can say it's a very progressive, fast, and very, very cost-effective way of moving yourself.
Just to add to what you said as well, I see Mitsubishi, they also invested into hydrogen-powered cars as well.
But then also a lot of people are only under the knowledge that oil is only being used in cars only, but oil can be used for more than cars. It can be used for rubber and so. So won't you say those markets are still open for Namibia to tap in?
Yes, those markets will still be there, but the price for oil is determined by its demand.
This demand, yes,
And if a major part of the demand, let's say 30% or 40% of the demand breaks in, then we'll have a supply and we'll have then an oversupply and less demand, and that will mean that the price will have to come down.
Basic economics.
There's another factor which I would like to bring to your attention, and that is the cost of climate change. If you follow the news, how many hurricanes, how many droughts, how many floods?
I think Hawaii is going through one
burning,
now.
burning forests.
Europe's
all over.
heat wave that it's currently experiencing 2 weeks or so.
That causes a lot of cost. There are still, climate change deniers and say, no, it's because the sun, whatever, and so on, so on, so on. But I think big capital is more and more conscious that these damages are being done to infrastructure and to their investments are a decisive factor. And I believe that this is one of the major drivers for their efforts to contravene climate change. And that will mean that oil, I think, will be phased out of the common energy market, of the world energy market, faster than we can think.
But also saying about that now, next year the US elections is taking place, where there's a high possibility of Donald Trump winning the elections again, but he is a climate denier. So he doesn't believe in climate change. As we all know, Donald Trump doesn't believe in climate change. So would you say it's going to be rapidly, if he comes in, it's still going to be as rapid as you said it's going to be before?
Okay, Harald. Yeah.
No,
you can answer that question, and then after that question we do the last round and wrap up because of time.
Okay. My opinion about Donald Trump is that he is a populist, that very many of his decisions are not guided by sound scientific information, but by his personal perception of certain realities, which I don't share. Now, if he manages to get a majority of Americans to share his views, then he will be president. Economically, I think that will cause a major disaster for the US economy. We don't have time now to go into detail. We'll discuss it later, but I think if he would become president, then the value of the US dollar will deteriorate rapidly.
Sorry, sir, I would have to disagree on that motion because as statistics showed last time when Donald Trump, before COVID hit, Donald Trump's, his US economy did very well on the global market, and the US dollar also went up very well.
Okay,
I think we need to schedule another 30 more minutes.
This is an interesting, it's an interesting discussion, but because of time, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. We are just gonna have you guys to say the last remarks, your last contributions, and then we are gonna wrap up.
Okay,
we're gonna start, chronologically.
Okay, so my last views on this is I'm quite excited for green hydrogen. I'm very, very excited. I would like more youth to be involved, and I would like if you guys can get Mr. James on the platform one more time so we can have a much more in-depth conversation with him on how he's trying to bring in the youth also, because I feel the youth is the future for green hydrogen. That's basically my final remarks.
Thank you for having us, Martin. Great guy. I believe you said most of the stuff I wanted to say. Green hydrogen, oil discovery, we're moving into the right direction as the Namibian economy needs a lot of cash injection. We need money to flow in the country in order for things to happen. And it's for the youth to upskill themselves as well, just empower themselves with the right knowledge. Because when these projects come into commands and they start being implemented, we will need a workforce that will be able to work on these power plants, be able to work on the offshore rigs. So the youth should empower themselves, get all the knowledge you can get on all the stuff, even if it's basics, since that's where you start, and then you build from there, and we can make money for our country.
I very much agree to the knowledge issue. The money issue is the critical one. The political question, for example, is whether Namibia's government will use it, for example, to reduce our tremendous national debt, which is a major question. It costs us about, when I looked last time, 9.5 billion per year just to pay for the debt that we have. And not to forget, we started with zero 33 years
Years ago.
So there is a huge overhead. But it will be a political decision. And if I would vote in Namibia, I would very much look at my parties. What do they say about the service of the debt? One more remark to the green hydrogen. Hydrogen is an energy carrier. It is not an energy source. Oil that comes up from the ground, you burn it, you have an energy source. Hydrogen is an energy carrier. That means you must take energy from the sun, wind, or anywhere else. In the moment, by the way, they make hydrogen from crude oil, which is a very energetically not very good process, and it's very environmentally damaging. So it's an energy carrier. So we put our renewable energy that we have into water, we split it up into oxygen and hydrogen, and then we can sell hydrogen in various forms, be it ammonium, be it other substances. The critical question for me is, how much money can the Namibian society get out of that? And that means we have to follow, in my understanding, James Manupe's concept. I think it's a very progressive concept, to make sure that many projects, infrastructural and educational and other projects, are done by those companies. And so we should push also our government to make sure that companies are obligated to take a portion of the benefits, of the profits they make in Namibia, for this unlimited market. The market for green hydrogen in the world is absolutely unlimited. What Namibia can ever produce will only cover 10% of the world demand. So we can produce green hydrogen as much as we want. And we must make sure that from every million that we generate in Namibia, is a good portion stays into infrastructural and educational projects for the Namibian population.
I actually love the idea a lot, so that you just put forth now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Harald. Gentlemen, thank you for agreeing to participate in this very important discussion. It's important to have public discourse on such issues. It also keeps the government in check, and it really contributes to accountability as well. Activated Talks podcast, Martin Nafuka here live on UNAM Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.